Hello and welcome, Ninth Age community. My name is Jobus Christensen, otherwise known as Roman's Revenge or Roman Ragnarok. Today I'm going to talk about a Ninth Age game battle that I played, and this is a battle report about that. It was played on April 22nd, 2021. As you can see, this was actually for the 13CR tournament, which is hosted by Cassis on the Ninth Age forums, and we are playing this game in Universal Battler. I am going to try to be a little more clear going forward about what platforms I'm using, because right now all my games have been played in Universal Battler, but I do have some in-person tournaments coming up, which I'm excited to go to and to take pictures and try to do battle reports of those. And also, I believe I'm also going to be involved in a Warhol tournament, so look forward to that this summer. Alright, so this is round one of the 13CR tournament that I just mentioned. It's only 3 rounds in this tournament, and you have 2 weeks to play each game. So the first round, you just get randomly paired up with someone else. I got randomly paired up with Pyrex, who is from Poland. Excuse me. He is playing the Vermin Swarm, and I am playing the Empire of Sonnstahl. This is my list I'm using for this tournament. It's the exact same list I'm using in the Fading Flame League at this moment. So you've seen it before if you've seen my other videos. So take a look at that if you want. Here's the Vermin Swarm list that I had to play against this time. He's got a General Magister, Wizard Master on Thaumaturgy, a bunch of magic items. Crown of Autocracy gives +1 Discipline. And I'm actually not exactly sure about the rules for the other things, so look those up if you're interested in Vermin Swarm. It's got a Plague Patriarch as well, an Apprentice on Cultism. So he's got the two big war platforms, the Plague Pendulum and the Doom Bell. He's got a BSB, a big unit of Plague Brotherhood, a decent unit of Red at Arms with Legion Standard, so he gets fighting. He gets to add +1 to combat res for his for an additional rank if he still has 4 ranks. 3 units of Giant Rats, a medium unit of Vermin Hulks, but they're Thunder Hulks, so they're bigger, and they have Naphtha launchers, so they do flaming attacks. Flaming shooting attacks, 18 inches is the range of a Naphtha launcher. He took a Verminous Giant. Oh, I forgot to mention also in this tournament, Cassis was allowing you to use supplements and the Giant supplement. So you're allowed to take the Giants if you wanted to. I did not take any in my army, but there you have it. So that's why he has a Verminous Giant, 2 lightning cannons, and 3 weapon team rotary guns. I have to say, looking at this list before I played it, the things that I was afraid of was Thaumaturgy because of Wrath of God. Wrath of God and Empire do not play well, at least not the way I play Empire. Besides that, also, let's see, I wasn't too terrified about his Plague Brother or his Rat at Arms, but I knew his Vermin Hulks and his Giant were going to take some special attention to, and I really don't like the rotary guns weapon teams. Not a fan of those. So he's got some good shooting, and also his lightning cannons. His lightning cannons would be able to pick off my Arcane Engine mage, which is very critical for my army. So there you have it. Alright, scenario. Cassis, for this tournament, he picks the scenario and the map for each round, so it's not random like it is in Fading Flame. So this was King of the Hill and Encircle on map 1. Here we go. Here's something new I haven't done before. These are the spells. I actually just bought these spell cards. Um, so I broke these out and decided to show you what I took. So the top line are the spells that I have. I have a bounce spell, Ice and Fire, on the Arcane Engine. I also took number 1 from Divination, Know Thine Enemy. And then I took 1, 2, 3, and 4 from Alchemy on my Alchemy Master. Because I'm playing against a Vermin Swarm, he doesn't have that much armor, so Corruption of Tin didn't make sense to take. And same thing with Molten Copper, the 6th spell, because Molten Copper does damage based upon the armor of your opponent. Since he didn't have armor, it didn't make sense to take it. There you have it. The only thing that really is armored in his list are the Thunder Hulks, And for those, a Quicksilver Lash is actually going to wound better than Molten Copper. Word of Iron is, of course, useful because it gives armor to me, and I didn't really need AP, but I did want to have flaming attacks for reroll to wound, so I took Lawyer Gold, and then Silver Spike is not flaming attacks, and I wanted that just against Thunderhawks or the Giant or the Cannons, a bunch of different things. There you have it. Alright, so he has an Occultism apprentice, so he took Breath of Corruption, and then he took the Hereditary spell on his Master, and then he took 2, 5, and 6 on Thaumaturgy. Of course, he took my least favorite spell in the game, Wrath of God, or at least it's up there. He took Trial of Faith, which we'll see how that comes into play. I didn't really know about this spell because I don't know, whenever I play against Thaumaturgy, the main spells people use are Wrath of God and Smite the Unbeliever. So there you have it. Alright, this is map A1. So we rolled 4 sides, and he got to pick the side. So he picked the top, and then it's in circle. He picked I believe this is Defender, when it's this. So, alright. So I got the bottom. For terrain pieces for King of the Hill, he chose this wall. I'm gonna switch to pointer. Laser pointer. Alright, he chose this wall, and I chose this woods. I could have chosen these ruins, but then that's on his side. So, I don't know. Yeah, I chose the woods. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that decision from me. That was like my first decision I could have made in the game. Alright, then for deployment, I actually told him to deploy first. He deployed these giant rats on his right flank. Then I deployed this unit of light infantry crossbowmen on my right flank, opposite them. I actually think that was a mistake, but that was the first thing I dropped. Then I think he put down these giant rats in the field. So, I'm trying to remember. He dropped like 2 things, and then I think these Imperial Guard here, and then he dropped the rest of his stuff. So after seeing where the rest of his army was, I dropped the rest of my army, so he goes first. I decided to try to alter to do that and not drop for first, even though I had the opportunity, because you've seen how dropping for first doesn't always work out in my other battle reports. So this was the deployment. Immediately I saw that it was a mistake of me to deploy this way. um, his right flank is just heavy. So let's just go through his army. Of course, he's got his 2 cannons, lightning cannons in the back. Giant rats, giant rat, then his unit of Thunderhawks. Then he's got his giant, Vermin giant right here. He's got his rotary guns forward so that they can chaff and shoot stuff. This big unit here is his Red at Arms with the, I think it's called the Doom Bell in there. And then this other big unit is the Plague Pendulum with the Plague Rats in it. And then he's got a unit of Giant Rats on his left flank, of course, to chaff and try to outflank me. So, there you have it. I spread out. Spreading out is actually a good idea when you're facing someone who has Wrath of God. But this list really needs to kind of be compact and fight together. That's why I don't like Wrath of God, because it forces me to kind of not use my advantage. I don't know. I think I shouldn't have put the crossbowmen here, but I didn't want to show my hand too early. Not really sure. Anyway, there you have it. So, the movement, he just pushes forwards because, I mean, he's not afraid of my crossbowmen. He can just charge them with his giant rats, and I only have 1 unit of Imperial Guard back here defending, but he has enough things he could theoretically overwhelm this Imperial Guard unit, and my other stuff is out of position, plus he's got his Plague Pendulum unit guarding his left flank, so I can't push that side very easily. Magic. He got off that number 2 Thaumaturgy. No. The number 6 Thaumaturgy spell, which I think is called Trial of Faith. Let me just go look at the spell so we can refresh. Yep, Trial of Faith. So he cast Trial of Faith. On my BSB, I let it through because I wanted to stop Wrath of God. And You can see, do I see the rolls? No. Anyway, he rolled higher than me, and so he got 2 wounds off. I only have 1 wound left on this BSB now. I only have an armor save. I didn't put any Aegis saves or special saves on this BSB this time, so it is what it is. Trying to keep my characters cheaper, because I have a lot of characters in this list. Oh, I guess I didn't go through my list, so of course I have my cannon on the right flank, light infantry in front of them with an artificer in there, Imperial Guard with both the BSB Marshal and the Inquisitor in this Imperial Guard unit. Then I have my Imperial Guard defending my terrain piece with my general in there, my Arcane Engine with the Alchemy Master behind it. I mostly was trying to hide and keep out of range of the cannons. That's why this Arcane Engine is way back here. Then my big spear block, defending so that he can't just push forward with the Plague Pendulum. And then I have crossbows and a cannon on my left flank. Alright, so that was magic. Shooting, basically all his stuff was out of range, so he couldn't really shoot, except for his cannons. His one cannon fired but misfired, so he took a wound. And his other cannon, I think, missed. So, there you have that. And then it was my turn. So I issue, of course, with Empire, I can issue orders, so I put the accurate order on my light infantry. That's what the Artificer can give them at the beginning of a turn. I gave my march movement to this Imperial Guard and march and fighting extra rank to my right Imperial Guard because I intended to push forwards and try to block him. But then after measuring some things, I figured I couldn't actually get this Imperial Guard unit up here. So instead, I pulled my light infantry back. I moved backwards 2 inches. I know that, they have unwieldy, so now they have -2 to hit in the shooting phase, but I felt I needed to do that. Then I brought these guys over because I knew he could just charge in. Magic phase, let's see. I think I got Quicksilver Lash off on the Thunderhawks, but I only did 1 wound. I think Silver Spike only did 1 wound to his Verminous Giant. And then in shooting, I did, let's see, shooting was terrible. Look at all these ones I rolled. So, let's see. That's probably this unit here. They're shooting at the giant rats in the cover. They rolled all ones to wound, so this unit on my left flank did nothing. And my cannon hit, and then it failed to wound it with a 1. But my other cannon hit the giant and wounded it. So that was good. Because then it's on his turn. He charges the giant into my crossbows. Oh, and then I also was able to shoot. Let's see. I only did 1 wound to this giant rat unit. So then on his turn, he charges the full unit of giant rats first into my crossbows. So I stand and shoot at them, and they do a number of wounds. He charges his other giant rat unit in and his verminous giant. The unit that I shot up and stand and shoot actually failed their charge, but the other unit made it in, and the rat and the giant. So that was unfortunate. Then he just is pulling forwards with his weapon teams now that they're in position to shoot me, and he's positioned his Thunderhawks as well. It's not going to be very easy for me to get to his objective, and I'm trying to make it hard for him to get to my objective, so we're just kind of standing off from each other. This time I decided to stop Trial of Faith to save my BSB because I knew I needed my BSB to win. I needed this crossbow unit to hold. Because I figured if I could hold, I could clean up these units with these Imperial Guard next turn. But that meant he got Wrath of God off over here on the left, so that's not good. Okay. Shooting. What does he do with shooting? Shooting, he kills like 2 Imperial Guard. Nothing big. That's why I'm in the woods for cover, and that's about it. Then in combat, he kills a bunch of my light infantry, but because I still have a full rank, I can use the ranks of my parent unit, the Imperial Guard, for a rank bonus for purpose of steadfast. So I am steadfast, discipline 7, but it's rerollable. So I roll an 8, and then because I had the BSB alive, I roll a 6, and I stayed. So my light infantry stayed in combat, which is what I needed to do to hold this flank. So then on my turn, I charge my Imperial Guard unit into the Verminous Giant in the flank. And then I just kind of pivot forward. He moved his rats out of range, so these crossbowmen were doing nothing. And I move my spears forward, trying to make sure that they cannot be hit by that Wrath of God, though they still are technically within range. And these Imperial Guard just come up a little bit to support in case he decides to charge in or get closer. Alright. Magic phase, I get off a I think that's the number 4 spell from Alchemy, which is the Silver Spike from Thunderhulks. Again, it's not really doing anything. Magic was not that effective in the first 2 turns. Combat, my Imperial Guard. Let's see. So the Verminous Giant killed a couple of Imperial Guard, but I was able to kill him. And then I decided not to overrun into his giant rats because I didn't want to have my flank exposed to his units. So then I just turn and face him in the water. Oh, and his Wrath of God counter, it did not come down, so he put another counter on it. So I got lucky. Wrath of God did not come down on that first turn. Then on his turn, he decides not to charge. I think he's wary of my Pure Guard. Honestly, I think his Thunderhawks could go right through him, but whatever. Instead, he chaffs me with his giant rats. Magic Phase, he gets off Draw of Faith, kills my BSB, so now I'm without my BSB. And then he gets off another Wrath of God right here. So now there's 2 Wrath of Gods in play. This Wrath of God on the left did go off. It killed the cannon, and when it killed the cannon, it caused my light infantry to panic. They fled. They were still within range, so they took a few wounds from the Wrath of God counter. But the range is low enough it did not hit the spearmen. So that was good. And then he put another Wrath of God on my right flank. um, and then his giant rats broke my light infantry. My light infantry fled. My cannon was destroyed, and now it's like this. So now at this stage of the game, to my turn 3, I'm realizing that I need to get a little aggressive and push. Otherwise, I'm not gonna do anything because his shooting and his magic is out shooting and out magicking me. And a big part of that was because of my deployment. I did not deploy my shooting very effectively. I think it was a favorable matchup shooting wise because I outrange him with all of my shooting stuff. But because of deployment, I wasn't able to take advantage of that range. So at this point, I need to be I feel I need to be aggressive because he's just gonna destroy me with Wrath of God and his shooting attacks if I just stay back. So I charge my Inquisitor into these giant rats, and then I just move forwards with my Imperial Guard. They're both within 6 inches of my Arcane Engine to take advantage of lightning reflexes, foresight. And this way I'm in position to countercharge if he decides to charge in. My spears, I decided to keep back. I was contemplating pushing him forward, but I decided no, I'm going to keep him back and defend my terrain piece. That way, if I move forwards, he technically could have marched past me to get into my terrain, I didn't want him to position to outflank me, so I kept my spears in a position to outflank him if he tries to outflank me. My crossbowmen, light infantry, actually did rally, which was lucky. So they are now back in it, but they can't really do anything this turn. Alright, and then in magic phase, I put Know Thine Enemy and Glory of Gold onto this Imperial Guard unit right here on my right, trying to just buff it up because I'm fully expecting him to charge his Thunderhawks in there, and I want to make sure that with all these buff spells that they're just ready to go. I did try to get off Ice and Fire on this weapon teams, and he dispelled that. That was the first spell I cast, and then I tried to put a Silver Spike on him. I think he also dispelled that, and that was why I was able to get through Know Thine Enemy and Glory of Gold, but realistically it would have been better if I had been able to take out this weapon team because I know he's going to chap me with that, so I needed to take that out, but it is what it is. Comet, or the Wrath of God, excuse me, Wrath of God fails to come down again, so that's here. And then in combat, it was kind of unlucky. His giant rats broke, and so my Inquisitor pursued and caught them. I think I actually tried to restrain. I don't remember if I tried to restrain or not. But anyway, my Inquisitor, I think I failed my discipline. I think I rolled a 10 and I needed a 9. And so my Inquisitor now charged. I didn't really want my Inquisitor to pursue. I really wanted to just turn and face and be in the flank, because now the Inquisitor can't really do anything on the following turn, but it is what it is. So, then on his turn, he decides not to charge. Instead, he positions his Thunderhawks in a way that if I charge him with my Imperial Guard, I'm not going to have that many Imperial Guard in base contact. So he's just being very strategical and tactical. Then he takes his weapon team, moves it forward to chaff my Imperial Guard on the left. Oh, I forgot. Earlier in the game, these two weapon teams fled. They failed their discipline checks and they fled from one of my shooting attacks. So that's why they're there. Okay. Magic. He told me that after this was a mistake, but I let through his, I think it's the number 2 Thaumaturgy spell. It reduced my resilience on these Imperial Guard, and I let it through. My Imperial Guard are resilience 3. I let it through, so now I have resilience 2. I let it through because I figured his Thunderhawks are strength 5. They're going to wound me on 2s regardless of whether my resilience is 2 or 3. And same with Wrath of God. Wrath of God is strength 5. So those are the two things I was thinking about. But now that I'm only resilience 2, let's see. Oh, okay. And his Wrath of God did go off this turn, but it rolled super low on range. So the only unit it hit was my Arcane Engine. And my Arcane Engine passed its Fortitude save, and so it didn't do any wounds. So that Wrath of God didn't do anything, so I don't know. I have to think about how I play in terms of Wrath of God. Sometimes it feels like it does a lot, sometimes it doesn't. But then on his shooting phase, his weapon team just destroyed this Imperial Guard unit. I mean, look at this. I was 6 wide. I had about 17 guys, and I go down to 3. He killed 14 Imperial Guard with 1 weapon team. Actually, he might have shot with all 3, but regardless, that's why I don't like the weapon teams. They're really deadly. So now this unit really can't do anything. Actually, I think Wrath of God did do 2 wounds. Or maybe that was a cannon. Anyway, so this is now my position. So on my turn, I decide I can't charge my small Imperial Guard, and I have 3 left. They're not gonna do anything to these Thunderhawks. That's just gonna give him a free pivot. So I decide to charge my Imperial Guard on the left into his weapon team. He has to hold because if he flees, I'll just redirect into his Doom Bell unit. So he holds, and I also charge my Arcane Engine in, because if I don't charge my Arcane Engine in, then this Imperial Guard unit has to maximize. And if I do that, he positioned the weapon team as such that if I charge with the Imperial Guard, my Imperial Guard have enough room to maximize models, and then I wouldn't be able to overrun into his Bell unit, or at least not very effectively. So instead, I charge my Arcane Engine in on the corner, which forces my Imperial Guard to be further to the left, so that way when they overrun, they'll be able to hit his Bell unit. And then I just turned my Imperial Guard here. I played around with reforming them and conga lining them, but they couldn't really do anything if they conga line, so I just reformed them like this, so that his Thunderhulk, they're kind of now chaffing his Thunderhulks. And then I moved my Inquisitor over in front of his Thunderhulks as well, so now he's double chaffed. He could, if he charges my Inquisitor, he's really only going to get one, maybe two in base contact, but that's not likely. And he can't charge both units. So there you have. That's why they're like that. Uh, then let's see. In Magic, I got off Know Thine Enemy in the bubble, and that's it. In shooting, my shooting isn't doing much because I lost my cannons, and these crossbows, with they can't really do that much to these rats in the field. Oh, and I also pushed forward these spears. So this was really the turn I knew I needed to push if I wanted to do anything in this game. Alright, with impact hits, my Arcane Engine destroyed the weapons team, which then allowed my Imperial Guard to do an overrun into this unit. They are just barely, I wish I took a screenshot of the arc. Their positioning was like perfect. They're just barely out of the arc of his pendulum unit. So his pendulum unit is not able to charge me in the flank, even though that's what he was trying to set up. So there you have that. So his turn, he turns his pendulum unit so that he is in my flank of this Imperial Guard unit with my general. He charges his giant rats into the rear of my Imperial Guard, the small unit with 3. And then he just reforms and moves back his Thunderhawks so that he's also flanking me on the other side. Then he moves his giant rats forwards on the left to chaff my spear block, so my spears can't charge his pendulum unit in the flank. And I had also cast Word of Iron the previous turn. That was the other spell I got off. I got Know Thine Enemy off in a bubble, and I put Word of Iron on my spear block so that they would have armor 3. I think I put +2 armor on them because I was afraid his pendulum unit was going to charge into them. In combat, so I let off Breath of Corruption because I didn't want him to get off the spell that reduces my resilience or my strength. Shooting, he shot off my Arcane Engine with his cannons. And at this point I said, well, that's the game. That's game over for me because now I don't have magic, and now I don't have lightning reflexes or foresight on my Imperial Guard. So, you know, there's not a whole lot I can do at this point. Combat-wise, I killed a lot of rats. Ran at arms with my Imperial Guard. He only killed 4 of my Imperial Guard. He issued a challenge with his thaumaturgy on the bell. So the bell was fighting my general. I did 1 wound to him, and he did 1 wound to me. And then you can see right here, I won combat, and he's steadfast, but he rolls an 11. He has a BSB, he rolls again, he rolls another 11. So he broke from combat. I pursued, and I caught him. When he broke from combat, that forced his weapon teams to also flee, so they weren't in my way. When I caught him in pursuing Is that right? Well, I should be facing this. I'm facing this way. I'm facing forward. So I caught his big unit. This unit, we were adding it up. This Bell unit was like 1,500 points. So I caught that, and now my Imperial Guard are right on top of his terrain piece. So now I'm winning objective. And I just took 1,500 points from him. Which was kind of a fluke. He shouldn't have rolled 11s in a row. Like, that just doesn't happen that often. So let's see. This was, yep. And then I also charged my spears into his rats. So now, and then I chaff with my Inquisitor. I put my Inquisitor in front of his Thunderhawks to chaff him, which I didn't really need to do because his Thunderhawks couldn't really do much. So let's see. On his turn, he is able to shoot off my last remaining Imperial Guard, so he gets full points for that unit. His cannons snipe my Inquisitor, so he got my Inquisitor. I should have just hid my Inquisitor or brought it back or something. Or I should have charged the Inquisitor into the Thunderhawks because maybe I would have had a chance at getting more points and defeating that unit. And you never know. And then I just turned my Imperial Guard around on the wall to take it. So that was the game. Shooting did absolutely nothing. I had like 800 points invested in shooting, and my shooting did nothing. So I only won because of that one Plague Pendulum unit failed its break test. And it actually came down to 13-7, not 15-5. If you look here, I added the points wrong, so it ended up 13-7. In points, it was 10-10 actually on points. We were really super close on points, and then I won objective. So I was contemplating charging in my Imperial Guard into his Plague Pendulum unit, but I decided it wasn't worth the risk. There's no guarantee I'm going to break him, and I'd rather win objective, right? It was either keep objective or charge in, and even if I get the points for this unit, I don't know if that actually equals the 3 points I get for objective, so I just said, you know what, we're not gonna, I didn't really do anything on my last turn. I'm just going to take objective, and that'll be the game. So anyway, Pyrax should have won. He's a nice player. It was just those 2 bad rolls that really turned the game for him. Because otherwise, on points, he was just killing me on points. Up until that point, if that unit didn't break, he was gonna win like 15-5. So anyway, that is what it is. That's what happens when you play a dice game. I didn't like my deployment. I think with this army list, I need to put my shooting stuff in the middle, and then put my combat units on the flanks. So that's my plan going forwards. Because that's now 2 games in a row where I put my shooting stuff on the flanks, and it does not work. um, yeah, I really don't like these hills in the middle of the combat zones. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but it's not a good idea. Any general would not fight there. If that happened in a combat field, the general would just say, we're gonna fight elsewhere. We're gonna just pull back and pick a different position because we're not gonna fight with a hill in the middle of the battlefield. So anyway, I'm not sure why he didn't use his Thunderhulks more aggressively. From my game with Flo with the Hold Guardians, I expected his Thunderhulks to charge my Inquisitor and kill it because Monstrous Infantry can kill the Inquisitor. I think he was afraid of it though. He said I don't think he'd played against Empire before and he wasn't really sure what they could do. He also, I told him he should have just pushed with his Pendulum. I know he said he was trying to protect his his general and BSB unit that I broke in one turn. He said he was trying to protect that, but I told him he should have just pushed forward with the Pendulum unit because he could have taken out my spears and then grabbed the objective. So the Pendulum has grind attack, so it's gonna defeat my spear block. My spear block doesn't do well against anything that has grind or impact hits. So it is what it is. So that was the game. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts. And that's really all I have to say. I talked about some upcoming events at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to a live tournament at the end of May. Look forward to that. I have 2 more games in the 13 CR tournament, and which let's see, one of them I'm playing next Friday, and Fading Flame. I actually have a game today, so I'm gonna try to keep giving you guys a battle report on a weekly basis. And Buckeye Battles was also just announced, which is in Ohio, state of Ohio in the United States, which is where I live. And that's going to be at the end of June. So I'm going to try to go to that because it's not that far away from me. So it looks like I have a live tournament in 1 month and maybe another one a month after that. And that's all I have to do. Thank you for watching. If you like this, leave a like. If you don't like this, leave me a dislike. That's fine too. If you want to subscribe, feel free. If not, that's your prerogative. You're your own human being. You can make your own choices. Um, and that's all I have for you today. I hope that you are enjoying these and be the player that somebody wants to play again.